Hi, how are you tonight? I'm doing well, and I hope you are too. Just looking to see if I'm in the right place. Not quite sure where else I would be, but you just can't tell. Okay, there we go. So in my post this morning, I said that, and it could be just me, excuse me, but I tend to think of leaves in the fall because where I live, in fact, I live on a street that has woods behind me and on one side of me, and at one time woods across the street. And I always think of the fall as a time for leaves. And I don't really think about leaves any other time of year. I do know that when spring is coming, like it is now, I see the trees are starting to bud, and that makes me excited because spring is coming, but I don't necessarily pay attention to the leaves or think that they're especially pretty. And so I literally take my leaf sets, and sometimes I have quite a few of them. Hey, Nancy, how are you? And I put them away, and I don't bring them out again until like September, August, September, October. And I was looking at some cards that I made, going through some things that I made for fall with beautiful fall leaves, and looked at them and thought, wouldn't those cards be just as pretty in green? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do some leaf cards using 3 different sets and several different techniques, and they're going to be very green. No reds, no yellows, no oranges, no fall colors, just green. All right, so I'll turn the camera down so that we can get started. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. I think that will work. All right. Well, I'm going to zhuzh it a little bit more. Okay. So I decided to make myself a new sign for when I did these videos. And of course, I just did not manage to get that done this week. So I have no sign at all. But I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. And yesterday it hit a high of 84, and today in the morning it was 40 some odd degrees and hit a high of, I think, 52 degrees. So welcome to life in upstate New York. That's kind of what it's like. But the sun was shining all day today, so I have no complaints. All right, so the first set that I wanted to work with, I'm also pointing out to you today that several of the sets that I'm working with today are either online exclusives, which means that they'll be around for a while longer, or they are things that are last chance. So that means, like this Caring Leaves stamp set was in the September to December 2024 mini catalog. And I think I'm frozen again. There I am. Okay, maybe it's just more of a delay than usual. And so basically this is on last chance, which means it's available until it sells out. Now, I did notice that the 3 leaf sets that I'm using today are all on last chance, and that they were all reduced by 50%. So if the leaf set, if the stamp set was $10 or $20, it's now $10 and so on. I don't think any of them was more than $12. I can double check on that, but I don't think so. So tomorrow is May 1st, and those things will remain on last chance. So it's not like it used to be where they retired and then that was it. They just kind of got rid of them and you never saw them again. They're not going to be like that because last chance means that they're there until they're gone. Now, whether they let it get down to only a certain number just to make sure that nobody's disappointed, you know, like maybe they pull it when there are 25 left, or I don't know how that works. So if you see anything tonight that you're interested in, please don't wait too long to get online and see about getting it, all right? So I literally pulled out every stamp in the set. There are really only 4. This is a stamp set that we call 2-step stamping. So you stamp either the interior part first and then the exterior, or the other way around. Some people do it one way, some people do it the other. I found that I have equal success / unsuccess with both ways, so it doesn't seem to matter too much to me. I also pulled in the textured notes stamp set, which is an online exclusive, and this one just came out this spring, I believe, so it should be around a while longer. I just love it. I love the greenery, but I love these little weavy, baskety type pieces as well. But I pulled out the thank you sentiment to use for today. All right, so these are going to be two kind of very different cards. The first one will take me like literally all of 3 minutes to show you. Maybe I lied, maybe 5 minutes, but honestly not much longer. So, and I completely forgot when I designed this card that the note cards and envelopes that Stampin' Up! Used to sell have been discontinued, but I know a lot of people have them in stock. So keeping in mind that I was thinking of the note cards and envelopes, were a much smaller size. So these stamps would kind of fill up the space a little bit more. But honestly, I don't care whether it gets filled up or not. It's okay with me. And for this particular one, we're not using the filler stamps at all. We're only using the, what am I trying to say? We're only using the outline stamps, all right? And that's it, in black. Now, I could choose another color to do them in, but I'm not going to. So actually, I kind of lied when I said that everything was green today, because this card is not going to be green at all, because it's going to have everything but green. So basically, I'm inking it up using my Memento black ink pad, and I'm going to put one of those leaves there. And it's kind of cool looking, at least I think it is, even without the inside filler. And another one there, and then that's it. That's all I'm going to do with that. And then I'm going to put this other leaf, there's only two different choices, kind of in the middle. And then I'm going to take my thank you sentiment, and I'm going to put that below. Okay, and that's it. It is one very simple card. Now, I thought some people might find that just kind of too simple, and I get it, because even though I like clean and simple most of the time, sometimes I feel the same way. So I thought, and now I just have to find them. Sorry, I should have gotten them out, but it was a last minute thought. I'm looking for an embellishment, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. And I thought the embellishment could be green. And I know we have some things, some embellishments that have some green dots in them or whatever. Okay, yeah, here's one. So this is one from the annual catalog. So this is still current, and as far as I know, it's still available. And no, I don't think I want to use that one, because they're too different from each other. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and take out, I kind of wish I had more than one shade of green, but you know, you can't have everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and take, maybe just on these two, on the outside, so that it's not too much. So I'm just going to put one green embellishment on each one of those. And if I had the same shape and design, but in a different shade, I would go for that. Now I could, just so that you know, you could take a yellow one and take one of your greenish Stampin' Blend markers, and you could color that. Right now my Stampin' Blend markers are on the other side of the room, so I might go ahead and do that on my own. But I don't mind the balance, because to me it looks balanced that way. All right, so there you go. Just as simple as it gets, and then you have lots of room to write your message. But again, initially I was thinking about the other cards, the note cards, which were about this big. So this really would have filled up the space, and it might not look quite so lonesome, but I still like it. Like I said, it's certainly clean and simple. All right, for the next group of cards, or the next card that I made with this set, all right, I did something totally different. So, well, not that different. So I have an olive green card base, old olive, and I have some, what do you call it? Pretty peacock ribbon, all right? And I have a label that I'm going to stamp a sentiment on, but I didn't want the sentiment to be kind of in the middle of this. I kind of wanted a smaller one of these, and I didn't have time to make one. So I just stamped these line images on them, and I stamped off one so that they would be very light, and then I'll stamp my sentiment in black. Okay, so now here's what you're going to see me do that's a little bit different. So the card's going to go this way, And this is going to go here, and you might or might not be able to see some pencil marks there. And I'll show you what my intention is with this. All right, so my intention with this is that I am going to fussy cut just the edges of this card. Just the edges. Remember that you move your dominant hand and you move this and you kind of keep the scissors still, except for when you have to reopen them, to reposition them. And then what you do is you move the paper instead. And by doing that, you get a much smoother cut. All right, now normally I would, well I still can, I'm going to hack this away because I want to save this, because this would certainly be good for several sentiments or scrap pieces or whatever, so we'll put that away. And it is a little bit easier to do this when you get rid of the excess. I'm not going to go like way down in deep and fussy cut too crazy, just pretty much the outer edges for the most part, just going down a little bit. So to make this card, and the next couple of cards, I can't swear to exactly which colors I used on which card, but I pretty much got out, I won't say all of my greens, but I got out Pretty Peacock, which is a definite bluish green, Shy Shamrock, which is definitely green, Old Olive, which is definitely green, Granny Apple, green, Summer Splash, and then Lost Lagoon, which is also kind of a bluish green. On this one, I think I see Granny Apple green. I'm pretty sure that I see Shy Shamrock or Summer Splash. Sometimes I can't tell them apart, to be honest. And I know that I see one Pretty Peacock. And I'm not sure what else. At least 4 colors, I think, on this card. And then on the next one coming up with a different set, I'm pretty sure I used all of them, or darn close to all of them. Okay, so now this is what I'm tossing out. Aimed for the garbage can, but I got the floor. It happens all the time. So the pencil marks here were to let me know where I wanted to put the ribbon. All right, and I'm going to use some glue dots just to make sure that I get the ribbon where I want it. I think I'm just going to pick this up, and if I can get it between those lines, yeah, I think that'll work. Glue and ribbon typically don't go well together. I won't say never do it, but sometimes it's just not a good plan. Now that time my glue dot didn't go on flat, so I'm taking it off because I want it to lay flat like my first one did. I don't know if you can really see that or not, but that's what I'm going for, is for it to lay flat. And that just meant that I probably should have rubbed it down a little bit better before I pulled it off. If you have to get a fingernail under there, that's fine. Okay. So I'm going to turn it this way just to make it easier for me to see. I think both sides of this ribbon are equally beautiful. I'm just going to put it down there so that my line doesn't show. I'm going to leave a little bit of the white showing still. And then I'm going to, again, get another glue dot. I could even use Scotch tape, except I think I put it away someplace. So we'll use the glue dots again and just wrap the ribbon around, make sure it's even, lined up the way I want it, and then press it down on the glue dot, except that my glue dot is nowhere near where I want to be, so that wasn't a good plan. All right, we're going to pull that off and get it out of the way for now because I want my glue dot to be flat. All right, so much closer to the edge than I was thinking. Okay, so I'm going to look on that side, make sure I have it lined up, and then press it down on the glue dot there, and then do the same thing with the other side. So again, a pretty quick card, and I need to show you what the technique here was that I did just in case you missed it. Okay, so if you take a look at this, you will see that it looks like some of the leaves are behind and others are in front. And the way I did that, the way I got that look, was to use a mask. And all I did to make a mask was I took a piece of Post-it note. I stamped each of the leaves on the Post-it note, trying to get some of the sticky of the Post-it note where I wanted it. And then when I stamped this leaf, then when I went to stamp this one next, I stuck this down so that when I stamped, it went over the top of this leaf, and when I take it off, it looks as if this stamp is underneath, or this leaf is underneath. Then I would put this one down before I stamp this next one and do the same thing, and you just keep doing that back and forth, back and forth. Okay, it's not perfect, but it works very nicely. And the only other alternative would have been to fussy cut some of the leaves completely out and then glue them on top, and that seemed like a little bit too much like work. All right, so let's get some glue here. I'm using some glues that I haven't used in months, so I'm not quite sure. You would have thought I would have tested them out first, but I didn't. So I've got like 4 of them here, so if one's a fail, I can go to the other one. But I've also always got one of my big pins here, so we'll be ready for that. Now I think it's going to work. Well, it did for a second, and now it's not. It must have another plug in it, maybe? Okay, we're going to put that one aside and get this one, which I think I just filled yesterday. Which doesn't mean it's not plugged. Oh yeah, that's got a plug in it, definitely. And if you don't go all the way down, you don't get the plug out. And I've broken needles doing this, so I've got to be careful. Okay, we'll see if that did it. Well, I tell you, I'm batting 1,000 today. Let's try this one again. There we go. It had a little time to set. Okay, and then some of these. All right, now what gave me the idea for this card, besides making something similar once before, was that I made a card, oh my gosh, years ago when I was a customer. I think I may have learned about the card at a class that I took as a customer. And what we did was we shortened one side of the card, okay, and then had this hanging over the edge. And that was kind of cool. So this is going to need to be trimmed just a tiny bit, and I'm not going to trim the ribbon because if I do that, it's going to fall off my card. Okay, and now I just need to get a little bit of glue on the tips. I could have done that first, but I didn't. Just get a little bit of glue on the tips, because while it's nice to have some texture and some movement showing, you don't want the card coming up or tearing up, going in or out of an envelope, or if someone doesn't realize that it's got some loose pieces. Okay, so there we go. And now this is my sentiment piece, and for this one, I decided to have 2 different sentiments. At first, I didn't quite get how to use some of these sentiments. So one of them says, some things never change. That's what it says. All right, and I understood that that was probably in reference to leaves, but leaves do change, you know. But I wasn't quite sure how I would use it. But then I had an idea, and actually they had the idea because they already gave me the sentiment. I just didn't get it. Okay, so some things never change. All right, that's done in black. And then for my inside piece, which I just did a little bit of stamping, also with a little bit of masking. All right, so for my inside piece, the second sentiment says, "You're simply the best." So that means some things never change. You're simply the best. And I think I'll put it lower down so there's room to write your message on the top and maybe sign down here. All right, this ribbon too, by the way, that I used is really beautiful. It's called Pretty Peacock and Gold Ribbon. I think it's 3/4 of an inch. It always says so somewhere on here. Oh, 3/8 of an inch, okay. And it's in the annual catalog, which means this should still be available and might go on the last chance list. It might have sold out. I honestly don't know. I didn't check the last chance list for things like embellishments and ribbon. I was mainly looking for things like stamp sets and dies and stuff like that. So I apologize for not checking that out more carefully for you. I also thought this could possibly be a really nice fun fold card. I think I did one of those with the flowers at one time too, where you fold it in such a way that when it opens up you see the full card, but when it's closed, then those flowers, or in this case those leaves, are hanging over the edge of the fun fold part. Okay, so this card goes in this direction. Just glue that on and fix that. Oh, no, that wasn't a good idea. I gave it a little push and it was too much of a push. All right. So the reason I like the wet glue, I always say, is that it gives you a little wiggle room, but it doesn't give you a lot. It dries pretty fast. Okay. So there we go. So that one was fairly simple, but again, I did some of the work ahead of time just to make it easier. I think we'll put some dimensionals on that. I keep wanting to turn it the other way. I have to keep reminding myself that it goes this way. So I don't think it matters. I was going to say if I have a leaf that I don't really like the way it came out, then I might choose to cover that one up, but I'm okay with all of them, so I'll just sort of randomly stick it in the middle. The little line that you see there, I used to do that and then I stopped doing it, and then I talked about it last week, so I thought I would do it again. It's just there so that when you're lifting off the backings, if at some point you can't remember or can't tell if you got that one or not, now you know, because the little line is gone. Kind of clever, huh? I got that tip from Kelly Atchison. And then this one just doesn't want to come off at all, for whatever reason. Okay, there we go. So, some things never change. You're simply the best. So that is card number 2. So certainly 2 very different cards, but made with the same set. And this one obviously could be any time of year. You could even turn it into a Christmas card if you wanted to. And of course you could make this same card with fall colors and use it in the fall as well. So whichever you choose to do. All right, next, let's see, which one should I do next? This one uses a couple of techniques, similar but different. And they involve using re-inkers or ink from your stamp pads. You could do it either way. So this is an online exclusive. It started out as an online exclusive as well. It's called the Changing Leaves Bundle. Now the bundle came with this stamp set, which is really pretty, and some nice sentiments. But it also came with a hybrid embossing folder. So a hybrid embossing folder, just for your knowledge, is where the dies fit into the embossing folder and you cut and emboss at the same time. Now, what's sad about that is that these were on the last chance list, but they're both gone now. So these are no longer available, but the stamp set is. And these would not be difficult leaves to fussy cut out if you chose to fussy cut them, but they would also be nice leaves just to stamp on a card base without worrying about cutting it at all. So this is the one that I believe that I used every one of the colors for. So what I did, and I did this ahead of time because it's messy and it takes some time, but I'd be more than happy to show you. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have. All right. I dyed or colored these leaves using the smoosh technique. I know it sounds highly technical, doesn't it? So for the smoosh technique, what I did was I took a bunch of these pads, I opened them up, and I dabbed them in a couple of places, maybe like holding them at an angle so I wasn't dabbing them all. And then I picked the next one, and so I mixed the colors up and tried to do that without getting mixed ink on the different areas. All right, and then what I did was I sprayed it with one of our spritzer bottles, and then I took my sheet of Fluid 100 watercolor paper. I thought I left one out, but I didn't. Well, I think I have cardstock. We'll just pretend, okay? So we'll just pretend that, hang on, we'll just pretend that this is a piece of the Fluid 100, okay? So now I've got the color there. Oh, I take it back. Let me think. That's the next one. Hang on. So this one was different. So what I did with this one was, no, that is right. It is right. So I put all the colors down on here, and then I just took a brush and just mixed them up a little bit, but not too much. And then I sprayed them with the water bottle, and then I took my Fluid 100 watercolor paper and just put it down there. And if I picked it up and there were lots of spots where it was white, then I just kind of moved it around again a few more times. And there still are a few white spots, and I have no problem with that at all. Then I cleaned off my work surface here, my mat, and like I showed you last week, I'm now keeping the chamois that comes with the mat in a jar here. You would need to wash this and refresh it every once in a while. If it sat in the jar damp for a month or so, you know what I mean? It could get stinky. And then I cleaned off the surface. Whoops. And then, whoa, that was loud. And then I put those images through the hybrid embossing folder. But since we no longer have the hybrid embossing folder, if you wanted to do this, you would have to fussy cut them. And it's such a beautiful effect, at least I think so, that I would have no problem with that. All right, so I'm just simply going to arrange these. I kind of did it earlier. I might actually arrange it so that some of it comes off and I have to cut it a little bit, just so that there's not sort of that dangling. I just don't like having the stem, that's what it is. I don't like having the stem dangling. And then this one I might do like this and just cut the stem off. And I'm leaving this space open because this is where my sentiment is going to go. And this one is just going to be a simple thank you card. And I think maybe that I should kind of do that stamping first just to make sure that I don't put those cut out pieces where I want my sentiment. So I'm going to bring this in a little bit closer so I can see what I'm doing. And so I have a chance of getting it straight. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. Close up the black ink pad. And now I'm going to look at my fingers and make sure there's no black ink on my fingers. Okay, and then I'm going to get a little bit of glue. Glue is not my friend today, clearly. Get a little bit of the glue. Come on, really? Okay, so I've been saying this every week since this happened, but I think everybody needs to hear it. So I will repeat it probably again and again for quite some time. Stampin' Up! Made a new storage policy, and they decided that any Facebook Live videos that you posted, now that doesn't mean videos that you take like of your kids and then post them, or your dogs or cats or whatever. At least my understanding is it's just Facebook Live videos in groups or on business pages, I think, as well, are being deleted after 30 days. And then at some point they're going to go back, like, because I've been doing these videos since 2019. So then at some point, oh, I didn't angle that right, did I? Oh yeah, it's okay. They're going to go back and they're going to delete them all. So unfortunately, before I really realized what was happening, I did get an email, but you know, sometimes I get so many emails, I'll admit that I don't tune into all of them. And then I was talking to someone who brought it up, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw that email. Well, I already lost a couple of videos. I had an email saying, I think it was that my March 5th video was getting deleted on Friday, and it was like Monday by the time I saw it. So, but anyway, so I'm working diligently now to transfer all of my videos to my new YouTube channel. And so my YouTube channel name is the same as my business, 11 Lakes Stamper. And on the videos that are still existing, this is weird how this just keeps plugging up. I'm thinking that this is an older glue, and when I say old, I mean old. I used to write dates on them when I opened them. And maybe it's possible that this one is so old that it's just gotten thicker. I suppose that happens, although I have to say I've never had it happen, but it certainly could happen. Anyway, so I'm trying to get all of those videos changed over to the 11 Lakes Stamper channel. And when I do that, if the video is still existing, I go in and I make a comment, something to the effect of this video can now be seen, and I'll post a link directly to the video, which is good for a while, but once that video goes away, that's not going to be very helpful. I've got glue all over my fingers, and one of the things that is good for getting glue off, if you didn't bring a rag with you, which I didn't, is to use some hand sanitizer. And it doesn't actually remove the glue, but it takes the sticky out of the glue. So you may still have some glue on your fingers, but it's no longer sticky. So that's kind of a good thing. And then sometimes you can just sort of rub it off and form it into a little ball and stick it on something. I've got a block over here that I use sometimes just to stick ooky things on. Okay, so there we go. And I think that's beautiful. Now, if you didn't like all the extra white around the edges, you could have used a very pale green possibly. You could use your blending brushes possibly to just blend some other colors, but I didn't want to detract from this. So I'm fine with the white. I really am. I like it. But again, if you think that you would like to see different colors on there, then not so much white. Some people have a real problem with too much white. All right, so for the inside of the card, they don't look like they're the same size. Let's make sure they are. Oh, that's different. Okay, this one looks like it's a tiny bit too tall, maybe. No, maybe the other one was too short. Okay, so I'm just taking the third image, and it had another leaf here, but I cut it off. And I'm just going to put that on the inside here. And I could also stamp something, but since I had that and there really wasn't any way it would fit here, I just decided to use it on the inside. And the other thing that you could do, since we no longer have the hybrid embossing folder, but if you like the idea of the texture, I don't know, like there's the white side. See if you can see the texture there. I can't see it yet because according to what I'm looking at, I'm still gluing. Yeah, there's a big delay here. I wonder why it's such a delay. Boy, the lighting is not so good for catching that, is it? Sometimes if you get your hand behind... Okay, so that's the texture on the bad side, so to speak. And then on the right side, where I did the coloring, come on, flip it over. Flip it over. Wow. Okay, so you see that? So if you like that, what you could do is take your piece of paper that you're going to be coloring, whatever technique you're using, you could take that and run it through an embossing folder and then color it. Or maybe color it first and then run it through the embossing folder. That might be a better idea. Although if you use water, your paper might be kind of bumpy, but it'll give you texture even if it's not perfect texture. So I think either way would be okay. Because texture is kind of cool, and I think sometimes we forget that the embossing folders can be used not just to be the main attraction, but to sort of be in the background as well. All right, so this is the inside of my card, and I'm just going to check that size out one more time before I start to glue. Yep, that's fine, okay. I guess I need to get out all my glues and welcome them back to the world of the living. I just brought certain ones with me to Florida. Yeah, I shouldn't have to do this every time like this. Definitely not. And even though they don't look like they're meant to come off, and they're probably not meant to come off, you can take these tops off, and what you can do is give them a good washing on the inside or soak them in some hot soapy water first. Yeah, see now little oogies are coming out of there. So I think there was what my friend calls a glue booger in there. And there may be more, I don't know. Yeah, look at that. Or maybe, like I said, somehow the glue is thickening up. It's possible. Oh, and I got glue on there for my fingers. Okay, and then we'll put the cover on. Or the front on the cover, I guess I should say. Okay, maybe that last one that came out was the one that was causing the problem. And unless your glue is brand new and really full, it's a good idea to put them on their side when you're not using them, as long as you're going to get back to them, so that the glue doesn't travel. Yeah, this one somehow was a tiny bit shorter than I thought it was, and that's okay. All right, so that's card number 3. Now I'm going to kind of keep going and try to see if I can get some more in. So that's the other one made with that set, with the changing leaves. Then this technique, rather than using the smoosh technique, what I did here was I took my Fluid 100 watercolor paper and I got it really, really wet. So I used the widest one of these brushes and I squeezed lots of water out of it. And I got the cardstock wet first. And then I added color to it just using the brush. So it's more blended. The colors don't stand out as being so bright or so different as they do on this one. But it's just intended to be a background. So we're going to glue that background. Okay, this glue is driving me nuts. My fingers feel like... Okay. And I did have this sitting under some books for a while this afternoon, but I'm going to use a little extra glue just to be sure, because when you do add water to paper, even watercolor paper, which is meant to take water, will curl. And when I dry it with my heat tool, I usually flip it over and dry it on both sides, because it'll bend one way first and then it bends the other way. And very often I will put something like one of these larger blocks down on top of that for a few minutes, or just use that to press down to make sure that I've got even coverage. Just use it kind of like a, I forget what the word is for that tool. I always forget what the word is for that tool. Oh, it'll come to me at some point. Okay, and then we've got just a white card base. I started out with a different color green and I didn't like it, so I switched it to white. And now this time, so here we have kind of a decision to make. If we use color, it's going to take away from the background. So I'm feeling like, so now I need that block that I just put glue oogies all over. Okay, we'll get them off of there. I feel like I may want to go black again, or pick the darkest shade of green I have, which used to be Evening Evergreen, but we don't have that color anymore. So now I almost feel like it would be either Mossy Meadow or Pretty Peacock. So I'm going to go Pretty Peacock, I think, because it's a blue-green, and I'm using the Lost Lagoon as a background, and that's the blue-green too. And I'm going to use just the largest stamp. Okay, now I am going to stand up before I do this. I'm going to bring the ink to the stamp because it's a bigger stamp. And I'm really going to ink it up well, so that means I'm going to go over it and over it and over it a few times, because it has to get down into the texture of the stamp itself has texture as well. And I'd rather have a little too much ink, as long as it's not gooey, than not enough ink. And I'm even going to go ahead and huff on it a little bit, like you do when you're cleaning your glasses. And then I'm going to stand up. I'm going to tilt it that way and put it down. And I'm really going to press pretty hard. And I'm going to leave it in place for a couple of minutes. I don't have a pad under it. And of course, if it doesn't come out, there's not a thing I can do. Hey, Karen, how are you? Because, oh, look at that. It's perfect. Thank you. I thank the stamping gods. All right. Because I didn't use the Stamparatus, so if it didn't come out, I would have no second chances. All right, so I think that is just gorgeous. And then maybe I should use, I think I want to grab another sentiment. Let's see. All right, there's one in the textured notes set that says a little appreciation. I think I'm going to use that one. A little note of appreciation, sorry. So basically it's just a different way of saying it's a thank you note, right? Just a slightly different way. Oh, there's a hair in it for a change. It's not one of the cats, it's mine. And there it is again. Because it's stuck to my sticky finger. Oh my goodness. Okay, so yes, I will use the pretty peacock again with a sentiment. I think my pretty peacock needs re-inking. And that's why I thought huffing on it a little bit wouldn't hurt. So I guess we'll put that up there in that corner. Could I get lucky twice in a row? Yes, I did. Nice. So that is just a little thank you note. And now that is going to get put on top of the basic white card base. And we'll definitely have to put a little weight on that, I think, and let it sit for a few minutes while I work on the next thing. And the other thing is that the Fluid 100 watercolor paper is very heavy as well. It's a very thick paper, as most watercolor papers are. So neither one of those techniques takes any particular talent. I will admit they're a little messy. I had blue fingers up until a little bit before dinner last night. Okay, so let's just take this and put it on top of that and set it over here for a few. Okay, so then the very last set that I used, and I did a little playing around with this one too, but this was a little something different. This is a background stamp, which means it's very large. All right, it's larger than a card front. So what I did was I took a piece of the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, which is 5 by 7, and basically just used the whole thing. So this one I did off camera, so you didn't get to see that at all. But what I did was I took my sponge daubers, these. We sell the sponge daubers in packages of 5, and scrapbook.com sells this really nice case to store them in. So it comes in very handy. So I took my sponge daubers, and this right here is my green row, and I have one either for every of my green colors, or because colors sometimes change, I've labeled them light green, yellowish green, bluish green, and so on. And then I clean it off on a piece of paper before I start, just to make sure that I'm looking for my scrap paper so you can see. So all those little circles there are where I cleaned it off to make sure there wasn't any leftover color on there that I didn't want. Okay, so what I did then was I took the sponge dauber and I used, I don't know if I can remember the exact colors, but I used one color for all these little ones that looked like they were the same leaf. Let me make sure you can see. Move up a little bit more. And then I basically just picked out whichever ones I thought were the same plants and made them the same colors. And whether I goofed a little bit along the way, I don't remember if I did or not, but I might have. And then once I had all of that ink on the stamp, I used the water spritzer and I sprayed it from high up just a fine mist, very lightly. If I had sprayed it and gotten it really wet, then it would have a much different watercolory look. It did lose some of the clarity inside the leaves, but it kept the clarity of the outside or the outline of the leaves, and that's what I wanted to do. So I'm not at all troubled by the way that looks. I'm absolutely fine with that, and I was pretty sure that that was going to happen, and it was really okay. All right, last week I think I mentioned that sometimes I just really like a black background to make something pop when you've got white going against a white background, and I'm sticking by that. I really like it. I could have used, would you look at that? I could have used a really dark green as well, but like I said, I didn't have one that I thought would go well with the old olive, so I just chose to use black. Actually, brown might have been a good choice as well. Okay, and then this is going to go on top of, no, that's the inside of my card. Silly me. No, this is going to go here, okay? And you can see how that little bit of black peeking through just really defines everything. I wanted to make more than 3 cards, and I was even hoping to have some already completed samples to show you. I might play some more, but I don't know if I'll get to that tomorrow. I have kind of a busy day tomorrow. That little thing that I do actually gets the card to slide where I want it to slide if it's not totally even. Okay, so that's that. And then this is going to be just a little decoration. That's part of what I cut off, so that's going to go on the bottom of my card, the inside of the card. And then we'll just trim off the excess. And that can go on the inside. Just like to get a little glue at every corner to make sure that the corners don't lift up. Okay, and then for a sentiment, I hadn't actually given that one some thought. So this particular stamp doesn't come with a sentiment because it's just a background stamp. I think something circular could be pretty. I've got that shape too. I don't want to cover up any more of the leaves than I have to. So I think that I will just pull that thank you over again and use that in black, because it looks like that will fit very nicely. And we'll get some dimensionals again. Whoa. This bad habit of twisting the cap to get it off, which twists that off, because you don't have to twist the cap to get it off, you just pull it off. This is from the, I forgot the name of it, but anyway, this particular die set is also still available. All right, so we have, how many cards do we have? I think I was only doing one with that one. Yeah, I was. So we've got 2 with the carrying leaves, and there's certainly 2 very different cards. 1 with the Leaf Collection background stamp, and then 1 with the changing leaves. So they're all just, oh, you can't see all those, can you? Hang on. Let's move them up. That's why I spend so much time trying to get the camera in the right position, because then I'm in camera no matter what I do. Let's see, is that better? A little bit. All right, so there you go. And it just proved to me that leaves can be pretty any time of year, and that green is just fine. I just have to get that idea out of my head that leaves are for the fall. Oh, wait, I have this one that's still sitting under the block here. I knew something was missing. All right, so there's this one too. Also done with the changing leaves. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me tonight. If you catch me on the replay, that's great too. Please leave a comment. It helps a lot. And on YouTube, to be very honest with you, if you don't leave comments, YouTube will not be showing my videos. I won't pop up easily when people search for my YouTube channel, because they absolutely want the comments. They want comments and thumbs up and all of that nonsense. So if you go over to my YouTube channel, please do that for me. I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, I become sort of invisible. All right, have a great night, what's left of it, and a good weekend coming up, and I'll see you next week.